Plenary of the GSA's 4G, 5G Fixed Wireless Access Forum. Over the next 90 minutes or so, our panel of experts from across the fixed wireless access ecosystem will share their perspectives and insights on the 4G and 5G fixed wireless access opportunity and the best practices in deploying FWA services. First, just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into the event. All the presentations shared today, you are able to download them. If you move your mouse over the screen, you can click the little icons to download the slides. You will receive an on-demand recording of the entire discussion immediately after this event. We'll also be sharing links to some of the recent resources and assets on the GSA website as well. Following the presentations, there will be a Q&A session with our respective speakers. So please do submit questions as we go through the event using the questions sidebar on the side. Then if we can answer them directly to yourselves, we will do, or the moderators will draw on them to help inspire the respective Q&A discussions. But first, to get things started, I'll hand over to Simon Bryant, who's head of research for GSA, just to formally open the event. Simon.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here at this Fixed Wireless Access Forum event. I'd like to introduce the GSA to start with, please, before handing over to Julian. For those who don't already know the GSA stands for the Global Mobile Suppliers Association, and as an association, we've been representing the global mobile ecosystem since 1998. We're made up of 9 major industry executive companies, representing some of the leading companies within the mobile infrastructure industry. We provide extensive research and statistics into a number of 3GPP related areas, including within devices, chipsets, networks and operators, and spectrum and related auctions. We have both free and member reports, which go into many areas associated with these industry segments, tracking their global development. We also have our very popular, GAMBoD database, which is an online interactive database tool, which allows users to explore the wealth of data that we have in your own time. We also have a number of important focused working groups, including the Fixed Wireless Access Forum, as well as the Spectrum Group, a Standards Group, and also a Private Mobile Networks Group as well. We have almost 90 associates subscribing to our GSA data and reports, which includes regulators, companies, vendors, analysts, and also operators. So that's the GSA. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. I'd now like to hand over to Julian, who's going to say a little bit more.
Thanks a lot, Simon. So thanks everyone. A warm welcome to our 5th edition already of the Fixed Wireless Access Forum webinar. I am Julien Grivola, and I'm currently the chair of the GSA 4G 5G Fixed Wireless Access Forum. I am also the director for the European region of Huawei Wireless Network Industry Development. So in our previous events, we already highlighted that fixed wireless access was really having the potential to be a game changer. And when we started the forum and the series of events 2 years ago, things were really starting to ramp up. We have seen already now several countries, regions adopting fixed wireless access very quickly, especially 5G fixed wireless access. So in the previous event, we mentioned the US. We were kind of impressed about the takeoff with, I think it was more than 90% of the broadband net adds in the US going to fixed wireless access. And this is not weakening at all if we see the results of Q1 2023. So this is really good news for us. Nevertheless, as we have pointed out several times, there is still a huge digital divide globally. So we have 3.7, I think, billion people without any broadband connection globally. And clearly fixed wireless access, thanks to this time to market advantage and capacities, is really a solution to really try to address this big issue. What is important to really understand is that fixed wireless access, 4G and 5G, is not limited to developing countries or developed countries. I mean, it is really ramping up in all type of economies. So this time we will look a little bit more at the perspective from North America with speakers from Canada and Europe with speakers from Norway in terms of mobile operators. They will share their experience. And actually what we also want to highlight is that fixed wireless is also becoming really a strong strategic tool, a strong differentiator. I mean, today, for example, Vodafone and Hutchinson in the UK announced their plans for merger, and fixed wireless access was mentioned as one of the key strategic components of this merger, with the ambition to provide 5G fixed wireless access at 1 gigabit per second to 82% of the UK households by 2030. So we see the increasing importance of fixed wireless access everywhere. 3 years ago, as we said, we created the forum, and the objective was really to make the value of 4G and 5G being recognized globally and promoting the kind of deployment solutions, the ecosystem associated to these technologies to really get it really adopted more quickly to deliver the benefits to all citizens. So this forum is open to all companies involved in the 4G, 5G fixed wireless access ecosystem. So it could be module vendors, chipset vendors, infrastructure vendors, and network planning tools companies, etc. You can have all the details on our website, which you can see the address here. Right now, we have 54 members. As usual, the CPE segment is the most widely represented, which is completely in line with the forum objectives. And you can see that all the main players in the infrastructure business, module business, CPE business are represented. Of course, there are still some companies with whom we are actually in discussions, which we hope will join us soon. So again, this is a call for companies interested to join our common effort here. In terms of deliverables, we are very pleased with the progress we made. So as you know, we have been publishing regularly this ecosystem catalog. We updated it in time for Mobile World Congress Barcelona. We included a new section looking at software solutions, solutions to improve the QoS, ensure that the fixed wireless access user experience can remain optimum. Actually, today we will hear from Pierre-Lys, one of our members, about this kind of solutions. We are currently working on the 3rd annual edition of our device market survey. So hopefully we will have the results in July this year. Today is the 5th public event. The previous one was happened in mid-November last year. And one of the key new milestone we achieved this year was the launch at the Mobile World Congress Barcelona of our device directory. So basically, this is free of charge. I mean, free access. You only need to register. You go on our website, and you will be able to browse through different products, looking again at CPEs, modules, and chipsets from our members. So this information is updated regularly, and you can get access to all the details you want. So if you are interested to get in touch with those companies, you can do this through this means. So today, as I was kind of explaining, we will have, as usual, 3 sessions. So the first one will be giving an overview on the global market, where we are with fixed wireless access, leveraging the fact that the GSA Research just published this biannual report, the first biannual report edition. So you will have all the latest data. It was published 2 weeks ago. Then we will have a panel with first 2 presentations from Bell Canada and Telia Norway that will be moderated by John Yazler, who is the vice chair of the forum. And then the 3rd session, where we will hear from Pierre-Lys, Simcom, and Todd Scandway. I will moderate this panel. Once again, as usual, we would like to thank our sponsors, and because without their support, we will not be able to organize those events. So thanks again Olivier, Anthony, and Manson for your sponsorship. We will have a quick video, 1 minute video for each of our sponsors. And Richard, please, can you?
In areas where fibre and DSL are unavailable or performing badly, fixed wireless access connects homes to high-speed internet via mobile networks. Mobile network operators deploying FWA technology had tools for radio planning, tools for monitoring performance, tools for managing customer complaints, and today they have network dimensioning tool. Peerless DNA is here to provide the best FWA networks. Our OSS-based dimensioning engine guarantees modem connection speeds, and you ensure satisfaction to all customers. Calculates the number of lines still available for sale, and you consolidate your business plan. Detects and prevents saturation, so you always maintain the quality you deliver. Determines the remaining capacity available for new subscribers, and you strengthen your sales processes. Infers the exact investments needed, and you remedy congestion while minimizing capital expenditure. Reduces churn, which means you get a faster return on investments. The future of FWA is bright with Peerless.
Today, the Internet of Things, IoT, is benefiting the whole world, and technology is changing our lives imperceptibly. As an advanced module supplier in the IoT industry, Simcom Wireless Solutions Limited, Simcom provides the most stable and reliable IoT modules and quality services to each corner of the world. Simcom actively promotes edge network solutions and business model innovation, striving to become a leader in the global IoT module market in the 5G era. Simcom is inventing a smart future. Simcom is inventing a smart future.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, present a market status based on fixed wireless access research that is conducted by the GSA research team. As it's been mentioned, my name is Simon Bryant. I lead the research team at GSA. GSA Research is a team of 7 researchers and data analysts who are conducting detailed research on a daily basis. The data that I'm going to be sharing with you in this presentation is taken from 2 sources. One is our fixed wireless market update report, which is published twice a year and was last published only a couple of weeks ago in May. That report is based on data that's published via the GAMBoD database, which we've mentioned. And GAMBoD is updated on a monthly basis for devices and operator activity. So the data in this report was published based on data to the end of April, that it was then published in a report in May. As well as the information within the GAMBoD database and our fixed wireless access update report, we also have the popular survey that was referred to earlier. The survey is being updated at the moment, so I'm going to share some information from our last survey, where we did look forward to 2022 as well as 2023. So I'll be referring to last year's survey. But the new survey will be available in maybe less than a month. The final interviews are now coming into us, and we're analysing that. So that should provide some very interesting content to measure what we were finding out via last year's survey. So diving into the data, and this information is from last year's survey, which was with members of the Fixed Wireless Access Forum. So let's take a look at the market for CPE products based on the survey we conducted last year. Device shipments here include both indoor and outdoor CPE and battery-operated hotspots. Results represent the combined actual shipments of all 26 respondents who participated in the survey last year. And that represents many, if not most, of the major manufacturers of fixed wireless access CPE equipment. 22.7 million shipments were recorded for 2021, which was actually slightly lower than the previous year. And that drop, we believe, reflects 2020 being a particularly strong year for battery-operated hotspots, which in turn was due to the pandemic and the need for internet connectivity in the home increasing because of that effect. 2021 then, on the other hand, saw a correction from that period, particularly with hotspots, in addition to lagging pandemic effects such as product shortages and also high prices, all impacted the supply rather than the demand for fixed wireless access products. Now, back when we asked these questions last year, 2022 was expected to accelerate and grow comfortably beyond 2021, partly based on the belief that component shortages would ease and demand would remain healthy. Respondents back then forecast a 33% growth for 4G and 5G fixed wireless access CPE devices. Indoor CPE, which is the largest category accounting for 63% of volumes, was expected to grow the most, while battery-operated hotspots, although expected to grow 23%, were not expected to return to the levels of 2020. When we publish results to the new survey in the next month, we will be able to see how 2022 fared with expectations from last year, and we will also see projections for this year. And generally, we expect the sample of respondents to be fairly similar as well, allowing us to make good like-for-like comparisons. Here we're looking at two factors which were considered to be significant, accounting for shipment performance over the last few years. On the left, we're looking at the impact from component shortages, and on the right, we're looking at the impact of inflation on prices. These charts quite clearly show the impact of component shortages and what they had in 2021, with 15 of 22 respondents indicating that the issue was significant and affected more than 10% of their volumes. From 2022, while some shortages have remained, the majority of respondents reported just minor shortages. By 2023, this year, 18 out of 22 respondents expected no or minor component shortages for this year. In addition to component shortages, inflation also had a significant impact on prices, and a similar pattern of the issue shifting from a major one to a minor one between 2021 and 2023. However, respondents were less optimistic with inflation that it would disappear entirely, with most respondents expecting some impact to remain in 2023. This survey was completed in June last year, and whilst component shortages seem to have been resolved, it's clear that high levels of inflation remain a significant factor affecting many economies of the world. So it will be interesting to see how the new results fare and whether suppliers think it will have had an impact on this year's performance and the end of last year's performance. Now we're looking at some of the data from our GAMBoD database. We can see some up-to-date information on the number of CPE devices and fixed wireless access services by operators. 2021 saw a significant number of CPE devices being announced, growing 52% from 629 to 952 in 2021. While momentum slowed a little going into 2022, in the last 6 months, we've seen the number of devices available jump quite significantly, 26%, up from 1,013 to 1,155 in our latest report in June. This could have something to do with supply chains looking more resilient, as well as the new ranges of both 4G and 5G models now available in the market. The number of fixed wireless access services by operators also continued to increase, albeit a little bit slower, at 10% from 467 in 2020 to 512 in 2021, then up to 529 by October last year. As of June, the June report this month, we're now at 545 LTE and 5G fixed wireless access services launched across the world, a growth of 16 since last October. If it remains on track, it could surpass the amount of new launches in 2022. In the survey from last year, we asked respondents to rank which market trends were most important to the industry, comparing the change between the previous year and last year. Interestingly, the biggest change were the government broadband plans, and 5G launches were important in 2021, but as we have seen from the previous slide, were not expected to be a huge driver for fixed wireless access in 2022. Instead, connecting the unconnected was seen as the most important trend, in addition to working from home and replacing DSL. As of our latest numbers in GAMBoD, we now have 640 LTE or 5G fixed wireless access services being invested in worldwide across 187 countries, which is an increase of 11 more from the last update. Most of these, or 83%, have already launched, with 545 fixed wireless access services being offered across 174 countries. Notable launches in this period were those in more mature markets, such as AT&T's Internet Air and Vodafone's 5G service in both Italy and Spain. At the level we're looking at now, it is a technology and a service which is becoming fairly mature, with penetration across most major countries and all regions. A notable omission from the map remains India, although the commercial launch of Reliance Jio's anticipated Air Fiber service is expected soon, following the 5G auction last year. Despite the maturity and slowing of the release of services, there is still a huge amount of potential. Full operator coverage, service rollout, and consumer adoption within those countries is another story. 5G is also another factor which is accelerating the growth of fixed wireless access, and we can see is already increasing potential in Europe and Asia Pacific in particular. In the report, we also capture advertised tariff structures and DL speeds, and moving forward, we are hoping to be able to report actual speeds as well. At the moment, we are looking at advertised speeds. The majority of LTE services offer speeds of less than 500 megabits per second, with more than half offering less than 100 megabits per second. With 5G, as you'd expect, speeds are much faster, and the majority offer speeds over 500 megabits per second and even 1 gigabit per second, with a significant portion offering more than 2 gigabits per second. Impressively, since the last update, a few more services offering speeds advertised up to 5 gigabits per second have emerged. Now looking at 5G specifically, we see that 5G adoption has been accelerating. By the end of May 2023, 532 operators in 160 countries had announced that they are investing in 5G fixed wireless access, with 254 having launched one or more 5G services. Although this still has a long way to go compared to LTE services, which currently has 816 launch services. A total of 154 operators are investing in 5G fixed wireless access services, with 109 operators now having launched a service, up from 99 in the last update. Although growing, the majority of fixed wireless access services remain 4G, with 434 launched services compared to 5G's 109. 5G fixed wireless access services make up 20% of launch services, which has grown from 19% reported in the last update. We expect 5G services to continue growing, partly because existing LTE fixed wireless access connections are expected to be upgraded to 5G connections. Plus, we expect incremental 5G fixed wireless access adoption to be expected in terms of incremental, thanks to the additional bandwidth offered by next generation connectivity and a push by some operators. But also from an industry perspective, fixed wireless access could be seen to offer more value to operators than connections on 5G smartphones or other devices, with the premium stemming from the fact that one connection can feed several devices through Wi-Fi or Ethernet connectivity. This trend is also supported by the number of 5G fixed wireless access shipments from our CPE survey last year. Just 16% of 2021 shipments were 5G capable, up from 4.5% in 2020. This number was expected to rise to just over 1/4 in 2022 at 25.8%. Demand for 5G shipments, although small, continued to grow amongst CPE manufacturers. Despite the total market decline that was reported in that year, 5G shipments grew 162% year on year in 2021 and was expected to grow 114% in 2022. And my final slide, here we're looking at 5G CPE devices, and we saw that 283 5G fixed wireless access devices were being tracked based on our latest research, and that was up from 229 devices at the end of October 2022. 173 indoor devices was up from 143 at the end of October, while 110 outdoor devices was up from 86 in the previous period. Meanwhile, announced 5G fixed wireless access CPE models were up more than 25% in a year. And we also saw 5G devices from 80 vendors in the period, up from 75 at the end of last year. So that concludes the content that I wanted to run through with you. In summary, I would say, our GAMBoD data shows very clearly continued growth in fixed wireless access services and devices overall, although slowing at an overall level. Growth we see coming based on feedback from respondents to the survey, from connecting the unconnected, as well as working from home and replacing DSL. 5G will continue to grow strongly and has plenty of room for further growth. And device shipments and growth will be confirmed in the next survey that will be published shortly. But based on last year's survey, we expect a positive outlook. Thanks for your attention. I think I'm handing over to John now. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Simon. So my name is John Yasley. I'm the vice chairman of the Fixed Wireless Access Forum. And as Julian presented in the beginning, a key part of our forum objective is to share learnings and best practices. So we are very happy today to have two leading service providers presenting their learnings. We have Bell Mobility and we have Telia Norway. So we will start first with Tim Hughes. He's senior manager for enterprise IoT and fixed wireless access products at Bell Mobility. He has been having a long experience within Bell, and we are very glad to hear his insights. Please post questions, and then after we conclude this session with Telia, we'll have time for Q&A. So Tim, please.
Well, hello, everyone, and thanks, John. Greetings from Canada. It's great to be here, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about Bell's journey into the fixed wireless access. A little bit of background on our company. There we go. Bell is Canada's largest communications company. We have multiple services and brands across wireless, wireline, and media. To give you a sense of scale, in 2022, we did about 24 billion in revenue, with a customer base of around 24 million total connections. And our employee base is roughly around 44,000 employees. A little bit of context about fixed wireless here in Canada. The country is geographically very large, almost 10 million square kilometers, but a relatively small population at 40 million. And that translates into about 16 million households. You know, going into 2018, the year that we did our initial launch, we were looking at a roughly 1.1 million candidate households for fixed wireless, and by candidate meaning, you know, either no internet or pretty poor internet available there. And this was largely targeted towards a rural deployment. We did have some spectrum assets moving in at this time in the 3500 spectrum range. This spectrum at the time in Canada was designated fixed only. It has since been redesignated to mobile, and I'll say a little bit more about that later. And in terms of the build-out goal, we were looking at augmenting at least 1,200 sites with the 3500 spectrum, either addition of radios or in some cases new builds. So just a few of the milestones that we encountered along our journey. We did actually get into studying fixed wireless as early as 2016 with some initial proof of concept technical trials. Following year, we got into pre-commercial trials and integration with our existing residential gateway products. We finally launched in 2018, around the middle of the year. Our initial product that we launched with was focused around LTE TDD band 42. And the initial launch was really a slow roll as we were testing out the system and just making sure everything was working as expected. The service offering at that time was 25 meg down, 1 meg up. And as we continued to roll that out and into 2019, moved into new markets and new provinces, we very quickly realized that we needed to improve the uplink in order to make the service acceptable. So we increased that to 5 megabit. Later in 2019, we got into a device RFP for the next generation CPE. Really expanded the number of device requirements and a lot of the feature set and capabilities of the CPE based on the learnings to that time. Early in 2020, we ran into a pretty significant bump in the road as the rest of the world did. And of course, COVID-19 came along and really sent shockwaves through the industry. For us, you know, it greatly impacted the way we worked in this space, the availability of product, and of course the subscriber demand as well, given the rapid transition to work from home. But we persevered, and you know, and by the end of the year 2020, we had finished the approval of our second generation CPE. This added 5G NSA, quite a large number of additional 4G and 5G bands, and a wide variety of features and supporting tools. And around that time, we also increased the service offering as well, with an offering up to 50 meg down, 10 meg up. Going into 2021, we we started pivoting towards 5G NSA across our existing markets, and of course, new provinces that we were adding at that time. We went straight to 5G in those. A bit later that year, we launched with unlimited plans, and by the middle of that year, the auction results from the 3500 spectrum in Canada were announced, and there was the redesignation there for mobile use, subject to some protection periods. Later in that year, 2021, we started a mass swap of all the first generation CPEs that we had already deployed in the market, and started migrating those towards the second generation device. Some of those protection periods were expiring in certain markets by the middle of June, by the middle of 2022. And we started sharing the 3500 spectrum with mobile traffic at that time. Later in that year, we also really started to rapidly expand the spectrum that we were using into some of the mobility bands to leverage some of the available capacity there. And finally, we've recently, earlier this year, have approved our third generation CPE. This, among a number of other things, added 5G SA capability. So I wanted to highlight today a few of the key challenges. I don't mean to imply here that we have these all figured out, but we have certainly learned a lot along the way. And I wanted to call out three specific challenges. First and foremost, maximizing the spectral efficiency. This is obviously critical to making sure you can support an acceptable user experience, but at the same time, get as many customers on each cell as possible. And of course, given the cost of spectrum, we certainly wanted to extract the maximum value out of those assets, especially with the consideration that this is a lower margin and very data hungry service versus mobile traffic. So a few of the approaches we took here, we did decide to focus on an outdoor only CPE model, really making use of those high gain directional antennas. This allowed us to get outside the building envelope and the associated attenuation losses there, and opened up a lot of options in terms of where we could install the CPE on the property. We did decide, kind of associated with that first point, to also opt for professional only installations. These type of CPEs are very challenging to align well with the sites in some cases. So we decided to use professional only installations. I'd say the third key thing in our approach here was really to make maximum use of RAN features associated with traffic balancing and priority management. These are critical, especially when you're sharing spectrum with mobility, to maximize, to first and foremost protect mobility traffic, but also to maximize the fixed wireless experience and to ensure that you're providing fair access to the users on that. Second key challenge I wanted to call out was, when it came to predicting coverage and the qualification of customers. This is obviously very important because the selection of sites for builds and the order in which you build sites is very much driven by these coverage predictions and where the opportunities lie. Of course, any truck rolls you do that end up with a failed install are sunk losses and very costly. And if you end up installing customers out on the edge, especially in non-line of sight cases, where there's a lot of change in their environment due to foliage or changes in interference, this leads to a pretty poor customer experience. So trying to avoid that. A few of the approaches there, we invested quite a bit into our modeling tools and the geodata, clutter data that supported those. The the team itself, we built a dedicated, agile, long-term team around this problem, and really had them focus on continuous improvement, learning from what was occurring in the field, and adjusting regularly. And that team, was working very tightly, cross-functionally across all the different technical teams within the space. And finally, the last challenge I wanted to call it was with respect to the installation process. So, this is critical to making sure you have fast installs, but also a high success rate. Making sure that your survey setup is actually reflecting what the end user device is going to see. It's very difficult sometimes to get consistent decisions being made in the field when you've got a very large field workforce working in complex radio environments. And also very important to have a good, accurate snapshot of the installation in terms of the parameters of that installation to feed data analytics and the support functions. So a few things on the approaches. We decided to use, an identical CPE for the survey part as we would use for the end customer. In terms of the approach of surveying the property, we had a couple of different approaches there, kind of a simple painter pole kind of assessment to get a general sense, and then in more difficult cases, using tools like adjustable tripods to find the right position and alignment. We had supporting tools, a tool that could snap onto the CPE to provide battery power, provide some diagnostic functions, and avoid wires. We put a lot of effort into building out install logic that could be pre-generated, kind of specific to a cell, and to have that injected into the application the installer was using to help guide that installation to the right decision. As part of that, there's a number of signal thresholds that need to be defined, and we invested significantly in assessing those and determining what the right thresholds were. And then the application itself that the technicians were using was highly customized. We really tried to take a lot of that complex decision making and to boil it down for the technician to a relatively simple green light, red light viability indicator for the install. And then finally, on the installation process, again, very tight integration of the development and the field teams here to ensure there was continual feedback and a rapid check and adjust. And last slide here, just looking ahead, some of the things ahead for us. We have spectrum auctions coming up in Canada for the 3800 megahertz spectrum, as well as millimeter wave. The 5GSA, we do expect to migrate to 5GSA, but kind of is contingent on what happens with our plans for mobility and the progress of spectrum refarming activities. In order to access that upper part of the N77 spectrum, there is a special feature to do so, and we intend to roll that out across our CPEs and network. And we have done some trials in millimeter wave, completed our phase 1 trials, but that story is still in progress, and I do expect we will have some potential further trialing activity there. So that's all I had to share today. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll turn it over to John. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim, for sharing the insights and really giving this overview of the fixed wireless journey you had at Bell Mobility, and also giving a flavor of what are you looking ahead. So really, really insightful. So now we're gonna have another guest here. It's Espen Veum from Telia Norway. Espen is Director of Mobile Networks at Telia Norway. Espen has been working for over 25 years in multiple roles at Telia, including being an expert in network operations, acting CTO, and he has been leading the Telia mobile network since 2014. So we're very excited to hear Espen sharing his learnings on fixed wireless. So please go ahead, Espen.
Thanks a lot, John. I hope you can hear me all loud and clear.
Yes.
I'm very happy to be here to share the experiences from Norway, and it's very interesting to see. I haven't really been talking a lot to Tim, but we share a lot of the same experiences, and there are some differences as well, but very interesting. And as John said, I am heading the mobile network in Norway, and we are on a fixed wireless access journey as well. If we go to the just to have some background as well on Telia, we are a part of Telia Group, but in Norway we are a strong challenger with a history of challenging. If you look at the numbers, you can see that on mobile we are number 2, on broadband number 3, TV 3, and datacom 3, and you see that 2.5 million customers, and you see the revenues, and we also have you see the number of employees. If we go a bit, I can say something about Norway as well. It's Norway is not it's a very big country, not big population-wise. It's scattered, and it's big areas, but still we have a very good fixed infrastructure in Norway. So that's why it's extra interesting to challenge that with our fixed wireless access. And let's now go to the fixed wireless access journey. I have some issues with changing the slides. Maybe someone can change the slides for me. Okay, now I see the slides. We started up, of course, we did the mobile broadband as everyone else. We started up with fixed wireless access in the spring of 27, actually. So that was not that long ago. Then we launched our fixed wireless access, and then we used outdoor units only. So that's important to point at. During the autumn 2020, then we had started up our 5G rollout and started to get some traction on 5G. So we launched the fixed wireless access 5G offering in autumn 2020. And now we see that approximately 75% of customers are in 5G, and then it's mainly C-band. So that's the next step. The step after that, we did this TV bundling, launched TV over 4G and 5G. And that has been a big success as well. We spent some time before we did this launch, but we did a lot of calculations, and we found out that we're going to do this. We're going to challenge and launch TV over fixed wireless access as well. What we see now is that 65% of our customers are actually buying TV over fixed wireless access. So that is very good as well. And then the last step in our fixed wireless access journey is the launch of the do-it-yourself. Because up until 23, or we did this launch in 23, then it's been all professional install. Outdoor units, professional install fixed wireless access. But now we started up the do-it-yourself, which is basically a self-install kit with a lot of tools, and then you get information where to place your unit. It's window-mounted unit, so it's supposed to be placed outdoor. Could be placed also on windows inside. And of course, you don't have the same control over where the equipment is placed when you don't have the professional install. What we see is that the do-it-yourself has been extremely successful as well. So approximately 80% of the customers are now buying the do-it-yourself, which is a very fast way of getting your fixed wireless access. Okay, now I move to the next slide, and then we see what is the value proposition from Telia Norway on fixed wireless access. Well, it's basically the same as on fixed network. The customers need a stable and good performance. It should be easy to buy and easy to set up. We do have 9 out of 10 households in Norway. It's around 2.4 million households in Norway. 9 out of 5 have 5G coverage. So we're first in Norway with 5G. And we've also been working a lot with Wi-Fi in order to provide the best possible customer experience, because Wi-Fi is the key to customer experience. I guess you're all aware of that. I don't see the last part of my slide here. Anyways, if we dig into the offerings, to go into the details of the offerings, what is the difference from Norway and I see other operators is that we're actually handling fixed wireless access just as our fixed offering. So you can go into the website in Telia, and then you have the fixed broadband at home. You could do mobile broadband, which we've been doing for years. And you can also do the wireless broadband or fixed wireless access at home, and we have a separate cabin product. So we're actually selling, you could buy fixed or you could buy fixed wireless access. And if you look at how we have been offered this to our customers, you see that it's basically the same prices, and you could choose if you want to have fixed wireless access or if you want to have fixed. And in Norway, it's very popular to spend a lot of time in cabins. So we have this separate cabin product, which has been very popular. That has also been offered at a slightly different or lower price range due to, I mean, how many hours you're basically spending in your cabin compared to your house. If we look at a simple benchmark, I think this is very interesting. This is indexed, so you need to be aware of that. If we look at this benchmark, you see, okay, what's the difference between fiber and fixed wireless access in Norway? And we're delivering both fixed wireless access and fiber. The delivery time, it's much higher on fiber. The installation cost is also quite a lot higher. So you're talking 7 times on delivery time, and you're talking 3.3 on the installation cost. This is, of course, conditioning that you are utilizing existing infrastructure. So you're connected to an existing base station. When we look at NPS, which is something we are looking very closely at, do we have happy customers? We see that it's very small differences between the NPS on fixed wireless access and on fiber. So that's also very interesting. And this is something we're following, of course, closely, because it's still, I mean, it's early days. We started up in a few years back, and I mean, we recently launched the do-it-yourself. So that's quite new. Looking at the NPS, I think the basic, I would say, model or the plan for fixed wireless access in Norway has been to keep customers happy, of course. So, and then you need the good products, and we do have that. We have a broadband, we have Wi-Fi. I could say that we have been working especially with Wi-Fi, and not only in fixed wireless access, but also in fixed net. So we are now doing some trials, even trying out AR, VR glasses in order to look at the signal strength in houses, and we're doing all video calls, etc., in order to make sure that people are placing their Wi-Fi equipment correctly. But that's a part of this, and we have also very close cooperation between the sales part selling fixed wireless access and the technical department, which I'm heading, because you need to spend a lot of time in order to analyze your network capacity, signal levels, and make sure that you are maximizing and utilizing the network in the best possible way. So you should guard your mobile traffic, and you should make sure that you have excellent customer experience on fixed wireless access. So that has been a success for sure. If we look at in Norway, that might be different from other countries. We're not at this point, we're not selling fixed wireless access to connect the unconnected. In Norway, there is actually 96% of households that have access to more than 100 megabit per second. And it's been a lot of work from the Norwegian government in order to provide fixed broadband to basically to all households. So we started up aiming at the DSL customers, connecting either DSL customers with poor speeds or connect the unconnected. But what we see now, based on our sales, is that 70% of the sales is actually in competition with fiber. So we are selling in more suburban and urban areas, and that has been quite an interesting journey, because we started up looking at fixed wireless access as a rural product. So that has been a learning point for sure in Norway. And looking at the next steps, we are now driving towards national 5G coverage, which means we could sell fixed wireless access to even more customers. We do the millimeter wave testing. We've done that as well, because we have had some debates with pure fiber operators that are stating that fixed wireless access is not a future-proof product, but that's not correct. And we see extreme speeds in millimeter wave, and in Norway, with this population we have in Norway, the C-band is also extremely efficient for delivering broadband services. So that we're looking into, and basically we are going to keep challenging the fixed net in Norway with our fixed wireless access offerings. And that's it from me.
Excellent. Thank you, Espen. Very good presentation, and very exciting to see the journey, and many of very interesting facts that you mentioned. And I think it's also great to hear your session just after Teams session. So we really get a lot of similarities, but also some differences on that. So I think that is very good. And maybe I think I can use maybe some of questions here just to highlight some questions and thoughts. So to get both your comment and also Team's comment. So maybe I'll take one first question regarding type of offerings. I saw you mentioning that bundling with video was very popular in Norway, Espen. So I'd like to hear from Team also if that is very popular, bundling with video, but also I'd like to hear from both of you the bundling with mobile services. How popular is that?
Okay, yeah, I think I wouldn't say it is as popular as what you described here. That bundling, I mean, we're obviously trying to encourage customers to bundle with both TV and mobile services, and provide various incentives to do so. I don't actually have a handy figure for the mobile bundling numbers. I think the bundling with TV for us has been somewhere in the order of a quarter to a third of new connections.
Yes, and I can comment on the mobile part because we're normally not selling mobile and fixed wireless access at the same time. But I mean, the plan is to, of course, to have when you have a good experience on fixed wireless access, at some point we will for sure address these customers and we will try to sell mobile subscriptions. Try to add subscriptions for family members, etc. So, but at this point, I mean, it's a lot of bundling with TV, but it's not that much on mobile. But
okay, thanks. I thought it was interesting to hear a bit, let's say, the different addressable markets. I think Espen mentioned a bit on secondary homes. I would like to maybe expand that part on addressable market, maybe talking a bit on your perspectives between, let's say, consumer and business, secondary homes, or maybe even thinking about if you have a wholesale offer for fixed wireless and use other channels. I think I have seen some of that in Norway. So maybe if the two of you could comment on that dimension on go-to-market and addressable opportunities.
yeah, I can start in Norway. At this point, it's this is a consumer product, and I think we do sell it for enterprises as well. But I mean, most enterprises have fixed network, and they do not switch to fixed wireless access. That's what we see in the consumer segment, that they're actually switching to fixed wireless access. So that's a part of it. We do have wholesale in Norway as well on fixed wireless access. And this is typically operators that has been running copper, buying copper through our incumbent. So they are now looking at other ways of keeping their customer base. So we do have a customer base on wholesale in Norway and fixed wireless access.
Yeah, I think similarly here, we this is primarily a consumer service for us. You know, the vast majority of sales are to the consumer market for us. We don't sell wholesale this service at this time, at least. And in terms of the split for kind of primary residence versus cottages, I think the number is around maybe a quarter towards kind of cottage installations versus permanent residents. So still the vast majority are permanent residents.
Okay, very good. I think I checked here some of the questions that are coming up. And I think there was a question commenting on a bit on as both of you mentioned, looking at a millimeter wave as a potential next step. If you could comment, what type of scenario are you thinking about millimeter wave? Is this more urban or rural? Could you mention if you have any hypotheses or thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think, you know, all options at this point are still on the table from our point of view. I mean, we've looked at it, you know, certainly from a rural point of view, but, you know, that's primarily focused around a capacity offload kind of situation. The range is obviously a big challenge there, and the, you know, spectral efficiency dropping off very quickly once you get a little ways out from the site. But I would say that's the primary use case we've been looking at, but certainly there is opportunity there for suburban and kind of black holes in urban markets as well. But we still intend to study those further.
Yes, and I guess it's quite similar. I mean, it's very early days on millimeter wave in Norway as well, and looking at the Norwegian population and the area we're covering, we see that we can do a lot with C-band, but I think it's important to have a millimeter wave as an upgrade path in order to continue to increase the speeds to be able to compete with fiber, and this could be in both rural and suburban areas and even urban areas as well. But I guess, and if it's very urban areas, that could be difficult as well. So, but we are looking at this, and for sure we will continue to do that.
Okay. One thing that I noticed on your presentations, I think a lot about more process or organization, and how you bring a new service and you have to sometimes bridge different organizational areas, the technical team and commercial team talking together, or maybe the operations team. Let's say any learnings from you to share with other companies on how you can speed up that learning, and how you can get these cross-functional teams getting the speed to really improve over time.
I can try to start, but I mean, this is it's an interesting journey for sure. And I mean, if you look at Telia, we used to be at some point a pure mobile operator. Then there's been some acquisitions. Then we get in a fixed operator. Then you have different environments, different support systems, different culture. So I mean, it's all about bringing people together, cooperating, understanding each other, basically. So I mean, in Norway, we have been creating these teams where we have very skilled network experts that are cooperating with salespeople, and I mean, when you are able to make them understand each other, then that's a good first step. And then there's a lot of work in order to, I mean, all the support systems and all the databases and everything that needs to work in order to make this customer experience and journey as simple as it needs to be in order to have this best possible customer experience. That's a lot of hard work. So, but I mean, it's about making people cooperating, basically.
Yeah, and I would mirror many of the things you just said, Espen, from our point of view. I mean, I think for traditional telcos like Bell, with long-running wireline business and a long-running wireless business, there's a tendency for those things to have operated in silos in the past. And a service like fixed wireless is really a heavily converged service across those areas. So you're bringing very different teams, different processes, different mindsets together, and you have to work together effectively to deliver something like this. So I think it was actually getting into fixed wireless was healthy for the company, aside from the service itself, to drive those changes in culture. I think for us, like moving towards a kind of an agile way of working was really important. Getting people together, iterating, and driving that communication regularly between people to move something like this forward.
Excellent. I think that's very good. I think a lot of times we focus on technology questions, but I think it's a lot about teams and processes, and I think that resonates very, very well. Before we conclude, you have here the whole 3GPP fixed wireless ecosystem. Any comments or recommendations from you? What you'd like us to do more or do better before we go to the next session?
I can maybe start. I would say one thing that has been a big challenge for us and is still not well resolved is just the ability on the CPE side to maintain accurate positioning of it and to have a good view of that on an ongoing basis. A lot of the positioning solutions that are out there are subject to drift and other challenges, or are very costly. So this has been I would say, a problem from our point of view, and certainly would challenge the ecosystem, to find cost-effective ways to be able to, especially when it comes to azimuth and understanding the positioning of CPE in the field, be able to solve that problem. And I would say another thing that comes to mind is just the incremental cost on millimeter wave is still extremely high. So, aside from the technology itself, I'd say that is a huge barrier in that area as well.
Yes, and from our point of view, I mean, the positioning for sure is it's extremely important, and I mean that has been. I mean, there's been a lot of work in order to. I mean, you need to provide sufficient capacity in order to give the customer good customer experiences, and you need to be in control, perfect control of something that is very difficult to be in control of. In addition to having, of course, perfect control of your network capacity in both in radio transport, etc. So that has been difficult. But I mean, from a CPE point of view, I guess it's. We like low costs, of course. I totally agree with you, Tim. So that's important because it's expensive equipment, and we also need to maximize basically the usage of our spectrum and infrastructure in order then to do the carrier aggregation possible in the areas where we have this and that spectrum. So, but I mean that's quite general, but it's important. So we need CPs that are able to aggregate and utilize basically the spectrum we have in an area in the best possible way.
All right. So with these, I really want to thank you, both of you, Tim and Espen, for taking the time to share these great journeys and learnings for the whole ecosystem. We really appreciate that. And now I will pass on to Julian. That will be taking us to the third part of our agenda on discussion from our ecosystems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, John, for moderating the session, and many thanks to Tim at Bell and Espen at Telia. It was really full of insight, so that's really good. And I think we have already questions then to be asked for our colleagues in the CPE business based on Espen and Tim's requirements. So this is the third session. And we will have quick presentations from Pierlis, Simcom, and Toast Gangway. We will go through them quickly, and then we will have a Q&A similar to what John just did in the previous session. So let me now introduce Olivier Rostin, who is the founder and CEO of Pierlis. Olivier, can you join us?
Yes, Julien, can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Julien. Hello, everyone, and thank you for your presence. I think this event is already a significant success thanks to you and the organizing team. I'm Olivier from Pierlis, and the dimensioning tool I'm going to present to you is an innovation for fixed wireless access operators. I'd like to explain to you the advantages of such a tool and how it works. So how it works is it's very simple. We take the available OSS data from the networks, 3G, 5G, 4G, such as performance management data and configuration management data. And using our innovative mathematical models, we calculate key information for operators. Today, this information is partially available to operators, either through crowdsourced technology or through drive test. But as you will see with OSS data, this key information is available at any time for any traffic model and over 100% of the network. And that's a disruptive innovation. So let's start straight away with the first advantage of having a dimensioning tool. This advantage is the guarantee of an excellent connection for all subscribers. With this table, you can see that we are aiming to provide 30 megabits per second to everyone. And the tool is capable of giving precise information on the speeds offered to all subscribers month after month. You can see the first line, for example, which is the first sector. There is a concern about saturation in July in the uplink direction, and in the downlink, quality is slightly degraded, just below the target, but still acceptable. So you can see that with this table, we detect all the sectors that will not provide sufficient service. It's very easy to see which customers are being penalized and to set in motion corrective procedures. Another advantage of a dimensioning tool is that we can compute the number of lines still available for sale. And it's a function of the remaining capacity at each site. You can see from this table that for the first sector, operator can still sell 88 lines at 30 megabits per second. And for the second sector, we can still sell 102 lines at 30 megabits per second. This is 102 new customers with its monthly revenue with no investment. This information enables operators to use up all the available capacity and maximize the profitability of the network. Thanks to the heat map of connection speeds, we can quickly visualize saturated and degraded areas. You can see on this map that the few blue areas are saturated zones where subscribers no longer have any service. The red areas provide an excellent 50 megabits per second throughput, and the other colors give a warning of the level of quality of degradation. Finally, the tool provides all the investment needed to maintain quality. The advantages of this are immense. When you know exactly how much capacity you need to deploy to maintain 30 or 40 or 50 megabits per second, whatever you set, you reduce your capex to the bare minimum. Investments are only made in saturated and degraded areas and are only used to maintain the target quality. Investment is precise based on traffic, load, utilization rate, and number of subscribers. The tool infers exactly how much capacity needs to be added, and this means a faster return on investment and reduced churn. To finish, I'll give you now a concrete example of an operator in Asia who benefited from an audit using the tool. We found 38% more lines to sell without any additional investment. We also found 13% of lines whose quality has deteriorated so much that these lines were probably going to be closed by the customer. And we reduced the investment last to correct saturation by 27%. This enabled operators to make a substantial savings. So as a summary, now with this dimensioning tool, number of lines, fixed wireless access lines are totally accessible. We know exactly how much lines are available for sale. The quality delivered is also secured. So people know, the operators will know that these people are getting 50 or 60 megabits per second. And all the investments from the operators are minimized and accurate. And I hope Tim and Espen are listening to me. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will see you later for questions you may have. And I will give the floor to my colleagues and to Julien.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Olivier, for your presentation, introduction to your company. So now we will have a presentation that has been recorded, delivered by Mats Fischer, European Sales Director at Simcom. So Richard, if you can play the video.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning into this webinar regarding 5G in the fixed wireless access space. My name is Mats Fischer, and I will have a presentation about the device or the 5G technology, where 5Gs are evolving when it comes to fixed wireless access, but also to other mobile broadband devices. I've scheduled, or let's say divided the presentation into three sections. One about the company Simcom will be a short one, and one about 5G technology, evolvement, where's it going, also in relation to the fixed wireless access market. And at the end, some solutions, some modules, some technologies that we as a module provider can provide or give you to the market for mobile broadband, but also in general for these kind of technologies and solutions. First, SimCom is a cellular module vendor with Chinese origin. We have development in China. We have production in different locations in China and also outside China. We are present in all the main markets with sales and support team that can support the activities locally, technically, as well as sales. We have been around for more than 20 years, so it's fair to say that we are among the oldest cellular module vendors around from China, and we have maintained our focus on cellular modules and GNSS modules, and we stay that course because we believe the cellular technology in the future will be, let's say, even more expanding in all directions, so to say. Looking at 5G deployment over the past 3 years, definitely it has been a fast rollout in many areas, very much driven by consumer products like smartphones and others, game consoles, but smartphones in particular, because the demand for increased content, the quality of the content, the video in particular, are just increasing, meaning that 5G is the only technology that can support this in a large scale. So we see a fast-growing deployment of 5G in the market, and that will just continue as we see. Even in markets outside the ones specified here, we also start to see 5G deployment coming out. So putting this into where are 5G right now, and some market areas are more developed, well-developed than others. And clearly in the bottom here, we see that, let's say, the low end, the so-called LTE-M or NB-IoT, which is used for simple IoT devices. We still use LTE as the base radio technology, but clearly that will soon later on also move into the 5G. Where we see the 5G being deployed is in the mobile broadband, where the demand for higher data throughput, higher speed grades are needed. Enhanced mobile broadband, that's where we start to see 5G being heavily deployed. The downside still with 5G is the costing. It's a fairly costly technology still, but there are works in progress to bring that down. So far, we still see a lot of LTE advanced, but 5G are taking over more and more in this space. Looking into industrial and automotive, where 5G will also come into play, we're not there yet where it's fully deployed, but a lot of things are still deployed by LTE, but also 5G here would have an important impact, especially when we have ultra-reliable low latency and V2X specification and positioning of 5G, non-terrestrial, time-sensitive network, etc., we put into play. We have, let's say, 5G solutions which is superior to anything else when it comes to that. But we're not there yet, but it will come. It has been standardized, or specification has been ratified, so it's just a matter of introducing it to the market. Looking at the fixed wireless access in more details. Clearly, on the upper left-hand side, we have the ADSL, the cable, which is known to many, has been around for many years, and actually done a nice job when that was suitable. The geostationary satellites was very nice to have, or are still very nice to have when it comes to maritime in particular usage, on the vessels, ships, to get internet access when you are on the sea. Going into LTE with fixed wireless access, well, that gives also nice speed grade, but not really what in comparison to what the demand is as today. Low Earth orbit satellites are coming into play more and more, also where we see the non-terrestrial communication linking up with low Earth orbit satellites, giving the speed grade, which is also more attractive than the geostationary. Also makes, let's say, very much handy when it comes to ship vessels at sea. Just moving further to the right, we have now on the right-hand side 5G fixed wireless access and fiber to the home, which I think is fair to say is the most main driving technologies right now. Fibers are still rolled out in many places, but there's also many places where fibers are not there. And digging holes in the ground, introducing fibers is very costly. Looking at 5G fixed wireless access, worth mentioning that once we have millimeter wave in place, that will take that speed grade here to another level. Again, being very superior technology over many of the other ones when millimeter waves are available. Looking at the benefit of fixed wireless access, it's fast deployment. Basically, you get the box, you plug it in, the wall plug, given the connectivity SIM card are in place with the providers. you have a connection and you get high-speed broadband data very fast. It's cost efficient. As mentioned before, you don't need to dig in the ground to put in cables or wires or fibers. It's just plug and play solutions, very easy. So basically, it's a strong competition to the wireline or wired solutions in the market today, and especially with the deployment of 5G, and when the pricing for 5G comes down, it will be a very, very strong alternative to the other solutions in the market today for fixed wireless, or let's say mobile broadband or broadband in general. Looking at how the fixed wireless access devices as of today, clearly most of those are the so-called LTE devices in the field, but we start to see a trend where more and more devices will be moving into 5G, especially the places where high data speed are needed. 5G is the only solution to get there. And also we see when the volume gets up, the pricing becomes more attractive in favor of 5G. So we see the trend, as it says here, when we hit in 2026, a very big portion or bigger portion of this fixed wireless access devices will be 5G deployed. Looking at the modules, so to speak, the technology, the solutions that a module vendor like Semcom can provide. On the left-hand side, we have the basic LTE Cat4 low-cost data throughput, let's say, or low-cost devices for data throughput, which is 150 megabits in download and 50 megabits upload, which in many cases are sufficient. But again, once we talk about video, we need more speed. Moving to Cat6, Cat12, we have a number of solutions, modules for that as well. And when it comes to 5G sub 6 gigahertz, we have different solutions today in the market that really provides the customers with high data throughput. 5G sub 6 gigahertz and millimeter wave, as mentioned before, millimeter wave are still at a very early stage, but we do have modules that support millimeter wave and are working with selected network operators trying to make, let's say, work of the millimeter wave in a way that it is usable for users. RedCap is coming. RedCap is so-called 5G reduced capabilities, or 5G new radio light, will some call it, which is basically a speed downgrade and a cost downgrade towards what 5G actually are today. Not necessarily super attractive for enhanced mobile broadband because there's a speed grade degradation. The roadmap of 5G we're having today, we have a number of devices all based on Qualcomm, and these are the latest and the greatest in terms of what the market demands. Either it's an M.2 card or an LTA package that can be, we can supply both. LTE Advanced, again, we have a number of Qualcomm-based solutions that are giving Cat6 or Cat12. We have one solution based on ASR for really low cost operation. Again, it gives a speed grade that Cat6 and Cat12 can do, which is, you can read here on the slide. LTE roadmap, still Cat4. It's more driven towards lower cost solutions or very low cost. Again, the data bandwidth is not so great when we compare to what the normal is for fixed wireless access, but in some cases it's sufficient. And we have some lower cost solutions in place for very cost sensitive applications. Looking at this in a different perspective, basically, and a graph where we can say, well, the demand for higher speed is just going in one way. It is based on the content, based on the video quality demand, based on the number of devices in the household, based on the gaming, based on a lot of things that just put higher requirement onto the speed grade of the device or the fixed wireless access point in a household. We have a number of building block solutions which we can support to customers that easily make a device, a gateway with a cellular and a Wi-Fi solutions in different configurations. So if you want to know more, just reach out. Lastly, we have a number of course tools and support functions to support the effort. We have the modules clearly, as mentioned before. We have development kits or evaluation boards that allow customers to evaluate our technology. We have some success cases. We have technical support both in headquarters, but also locally in Europe or US, other places that can support the design effort with documentation and everything that goes with it to make it easy to design with our products. So this is actually what I had in mind today. Thank you very much for joining in and participating in this webinar. And I hope it was worthwhile. Otherwise, of course, you're always welcome to reach out. And I wish you a continuous good event.
Thank you, Richard, for having displayed the video, and thank you, Mads, because I think, Mads, you have been finally able to attend the meeting today, so probably you will join us for the Q&A. So thanks for the presentation. And now we will be moving to Anthony Chen, who is the president of EU and UK regions at Toast Kangway. Anthony, please, the floor is yours. You can start if you
Hello,
want.
Julian, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
I cannot hear you. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. So if everyone can hear me, that's good, So first one, I would like to tell something about, Toast. Our company, I think, is a global vendor, for the MBB. Now we have cooperated with more than 100 operators, and our footprint is in more than 80 countries. And this is the one thing. The second one is, I think our company is R&D driven company, and our R&D investment mostly, in device performance and quality, and also the how to dropping down the cost. This is the three main area, and also we are happy, to expand our circle of partnership worldwide. Yeah, next slide. Okay, so you can from here, I think, from the last year, I think we are overall, volume, for the company is around like 5 million, 4G and 5G set. I think 5G is contributes like 20%. For this year, estimate based on the half year, sales revenue and our expected, the sales volume will be the 6 million, and the 5G will be coming from the last year contributes like 15% to now, I think around like 25%. Yeah, which means like the 5G market is increasing dramatically. And now for the Toast company, we have the global presence in China, for the R&D and Asian operation, and we also have the different headquarters in the Middle East, in the Latin America, and also in Europe. So from the employee base, you can have an idea. We are small to medium-sized, enterprise. I think, and now we have 450 people, and most of them, I think, is experienced in R&D people. The software and the hardware, ratio is 3-to-1, which means like the software capability is very strong. Yeah, and now I think we try to also to push our R&D in a center in the United States and also in Europe. I think this is in the planning. Okay, next slide. For the whole portfolio, I think now we can provide the most comprehensive. For example, like indoor unit, outdoor unit, like a Mi-Fi product and a 4G product. I think it is all kinds of a device, and also I think all our device can be based on the different chipset platforms, such as like a Qualcomm, like a MediaTek, like a Unisoc, which means like they must be one suitable for you, right? And I think from the cost, another key aspect for our company is we are offering the flexibility of the OEM and ODM strategy for partnership, which means like you can give us your own specification, your own design. We just like realize it. Then you can focus on your customer, and we focus on delivery product, and I think we shorten the time to the market. Okay, next one. So I think this is for the value proposition, for the Toast. The first one I think is very important. It's about like the customer experience, yeah. And it's this I think it can be realized by the software and hardware integrated, and the three key aspects for the CPE perspective is the speed, like reliability and security. And in addition, the simplicity, for the operation, for the software interface simplicity and also consistency is quite important. This is the thing I think we are focused on. And the second one I think is about like the future readiness. I think for the small company, I think there was no way to go. I just like one way to live in better is have innovation. And also I think if we can provide a good product with a future readiness, then I think we can help our customer in the long time have a success. You don't need to change the the equipment, but anyway you can have a long time success in the market for the competition. And the number three, I think the proposition from us, I think is about like the worry-free customization. Customization is quite important. Flexibility in the software and flexibility in the hardware and also Wi-Fi capability is quite important. Different country, different operator have a different competitive the strategy for the market. So that's the reason why I think for the customization is quite important. And another one I think is from the thoughts is I just still remember like the operator like a Bell like Telia also mentioned about the cost effective is quite important. So we are aiming to providing affordable device in the 5G which will be lowerize the barrier for the people to connect the digital society. Next slide. Yeah. So I think as a vendor, so I think we would like to give you my insight about like how can we choose the 5G router and what's the key consideration. I think the first thing is about like suitable to your need. It's not like say the most advanced device or maybe like the but I think you need to focus on like what you need, what you can provide, for example, like the bandwidth and also like your speed. And I think you need to take care about which kind of a processor you would like and a Wi-Fi capability. And also for the antenna, you have a mini antenna, we have a direction antenna, where different scenario will shoot different antenna. So I think all this kind of feature profile is quite important. And also for the wireless technology such as like carrier aggregation, the capability, for example, like the newest chipset, for the new radio, like the 5G, they can carrier aggregation maybe 4 or even more, carrier. But I think entry level, probably, I think, they can only do like a 2 carrier aggregation in NR. So I think this is quite important. So I think, for the performance to your need is the one key thing, for your selection. The second one, I think, is the design and also the quality is quite important. This is which means like, the customer always, so, because this is a router, it's not like network, they're putting on the table, then I think you need like a sleek and luxury design. And also, I think there was something like easy to use functionality. For example, you can connect to your device using NFC connection. And also you can use your router as NAS, have a NAS support, and a faster charging. There was a lot of, functionality which is important, for the design. And that's number 2. And number 3, I think is quite important is about like the data, because it's a router, like cell phone, the personal data is quite important. So I think, for the security, there was no compromise for your security. And there was a lot of features, for the enough features, for you about like a for example, like a WPA3 or something like that, to make sure the data is secure, protected. This is for security. And on the other side, like, for the user interface, for example, like a MiFi, how to control, how to see the, throughput and the speed and what you spend. So I think this is quite important for the user experience. This is another thing. And the last one, I think is the most important one. I think, it's the product should be fit with your, target price, or maybe fit your affordable price, for the consumer. This is quite important. I think all the consumer, are happy to take a state-of-art equipment. They don't want to compromise their requirements, but they would like to, have affordable price that they will have a feeling of taking advantage. Yeah. And by the way, I think, for the cost factor, it's also very important, just like in the first slide from the GSA mentioned about now, I think it's still a lot of, even in the 2022, I think it's a topic, for 2022 in FWA is connecting the unconnected. So I think, it is quite important, to lowerize the financial barrier, to make sure everybody has the same and also fair, the connection with the digital society, such as education, such as communication. Yeah. And last one thing I think is for the environment, protection is quite important. The green product philosophy always in our mind. So on the material perspective, non-toxic and a low emission, for example, the zero emission component, we will use as much as possible. And there was we also considering like, the non-polluting and also non-corrosive, material to make our, CPE. And we will try to minimize, the component for the CPE for the one SKU. And this is the one thing. The second one, I think, is about like modular design and also detachability, because, if you want to reuse and also want to recycle nicely, I think, the detachability is quite important. And also, we will considering and how to, in addition, we will considering about the durability, if you have, the good quality and the durability, you will extend your lifespan, for the product, and you don't need to have like, how to say, to frequently change your equipment, because, the 5G is still emerging and evolving, this is one key aspect. Then another one is about like energy saving, because energy saving is, normally I think, the several things. First one, from the material perspective, you need to choose, lower power, the material and the component, and from the whole life circle, just like when you're manufacturing, when you use and when you disposal, I think to make sure, there was a energy saving, guidance, and also, I think, from the product perspective, like an idle model, will saving the energy as well. And from the packaging, the packaging, I think now we will never use the plastic, and we will use the reusable and recyclable, the packaging, and then minimize the packaging to make sure, everything is good. So this is my introduction for the towards the Conway, and thank you so much for the opportunity today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. So I hope Anthony will be able to hear us. If not, it would be a challenge. I will ask maybe Olivier and Mats if you could activate your camera as well.
Yes, you can hear me.
Thank you, Olivier. Yeah. And Mats, are you on the call? Or maybe Richard will explain to you how to connect.
Is it okay now?
Yes, we can see you. Thank you, Mats.
Okay, thank you.
So I have to say that we have an echo. During your presentations, I took a look at the questions we have received, and I have tried to kind of bundle them, okay? So obviously, because Peerless, you are a little bit in a different business, there are questions I will ask to both Anthony and Mats. And maybe the first one I will ask to both of you, based on the also what has been said during the mobile operator session, is we hear about new features, okay? So from your perspective, what are the ones you see the highest demand for? So there were questions about, for example, standalone versus non-standalone. What is the value of standalone for fixed wireless access? There were questions about maybe slicing. There were questions about carrier aggregation. So there are lots of things. Maybe you could explain, what you are seeing from your perspective. Maybe Mats, we can start with you.
I can start. Yeah, it was a lot of questions in one time, but let me take one at a time. I mean, SA mode versus non-standalone mode. Clearly, we see that the standalone mode, where you basically only use the 5G carrier, will be the future. Today, as you know, a non-standalone mode, which even most cell phones are using, that is, starting off in the 4G and switching in 5G when needed. We clearly see that the trend is going towards 5G standalone mode. And for these kind of applications here, the higher frequency, operational frequency is the better, because that gives better bandwidth. Now, having said that, also a little bit indicated in my presentation that we're working closely with Qualcomm. Qualcomm is, in our view, from the chipset side, probably the most advanced one right now in terms of what is going on next when it comes to new features. But clearly, that in collaboration with the network operators, and especially the things about the upper C-band, and those kind of frequencies which allow higher bandwidth at the end, even also carrier aggregation, and to improve the speed.
Okay. Anthony, do you want to take the question as well?
Yeah, thank you. So I think for the 8A, for sure it's a future trend, but still a long way to go. So now I think most of the operator provide 5G service based on NSA. So as a device vendor, so I think we make sure our device support both like NSA and SA, just like 4G and 5G. 4G is still a long way to go, and we also based on the mobile features, for example, like the CA and RCA. So I think we can define the different categories, like a flagship, the device maybe can support 4 or more NRCA aggregation, and at the entry level, probably I think I only have like 2 carrier aggregation, but I think they have both of them. They have full support of 4G capability. So that is the different choice, according to different scenario. Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. Now I will move maybe to Olivier. So Olivier, already we have mentioned during the workshop that we see lots of traction behind fixed wireless access, 5G especially, and we see huge demand, and we see positive articles, nice forecasts, but also we also hear concerns about how this is going to scale, how to ensure quality of service is going to be well protected and so on. And we have seen on the questions that there are some colleagues asking, like, for example, how do you implement the peerless solution? How is it easy to implement? Is it vendor agnostic? I have seen this kind of questions, which are more on the technical side. And on the business-oriented side is how many fixed wireless lines, for example, are still available in general networks that people who operate the network cannot even see, and how much more revenues they could get out of it. So 2 questions.
Yeah, so yes, it's vendor agnostic. We are deploying for Nokia, Huawei, Ericsson, ZTE. So absolutely Nokia agnostic. We can treat all of them. That's and it's very easy to deploy. The solution doesn't have any hardware or software. It's just connecting to the OSS data and collecting the performance data. So as soon as we get the performance data, the tool will display on a web interface, secure web interface, we will display the results. That's a good question about the fixed wireless access lines still available. We have seen with very high speed, request for speed. So I think they were aiming to 50 megabit per second, 38% additional lines for Asia, something like 40 to 50% additional lines for Middle East. So quite a huge number of lines still available. When you start controlling the capacity, the remaining capacity, there is a huge amount of money to go.
So actually, before having to invest even more, which would be good for vendors, there is still room for getting higher efficiencies. This is your message, basically.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And also something very important, Julien. So there's still a lot of room to provide more lines, to sell more lines. But something else we have noticed is that as soon as the service is ramping up, there is more and more customers. The quality will degrade if the operators doesn't invest correctly in terms of capacity, and then we see a lot of churn. And that's most of the. Sorry for the noise. But most of the operators were suffering from churn, of the success. They sold so many lines that they could not handle the success without a dimensioning period.
Thank you, Olivier. There was maybe now I'll go back to Mads and Anthony quickly. There were also questions about what kind of premium it is. If you want to have the 5G capability, I think there are probably different levels. To have 5G capability on top of a normal 4G solution, so 4G module or 4G CPE, and then even inside the 5G capabilities to also have millimeter wave on top. So what are your take on that? And how much demand do you see for millimeter wave? This is also a follow-up from Telia and Bell's questions.
Should I start again?
If you wish.
Okay, I mean, first of all, from the module side, today the modules are around from anywhere, basically normally support both NSA and SA mode. That is a standard. So yes, you're right, NSA mode is the most expressed today. Going to millimeter wave, there's a lot of technical challenges with millimeter wave, simply because of the bandwidth, let's say of the length, the wavelength of the signals that are being exposed. So a lot of techniques are now being tested out, like beamforming, etc., to ensure that you get the maximum amount of it. Because in reality, with millimeter wave, whenever you have a building, you have a blocking element, which basically makes it very, very difficult to millimeter wave signals to get through. So millimeter waves are typically point-to-point kind of conversation where there are visibility between the two devices. And again, that is a challenge. Again, still a lot of work is going on to manage the millimeter wave, because millimeter wave will again give us a complete next level speed grade, you can say. But I would say that still a lot of things needs to be done before this can be commercialized in a big way, in a big scale.
Okay. Anthony, do you want to add anything about the millimeter wave topic?
I can try to comment something. I think for the millimeter wave, for example, now I'm based in Europe, so I think for the whole Europe member state, probably maybe 8 or maybe 7, country release the millimeter wave, spectrum. This is one thing, which means maybe there's some operators still want to try, but I think it's a very early stage. This is one thing. The second one, I think the millimeter wave, just like Matt Fisher mentioned, I think is a point-to-point, and also they have a little bit short, the transmission range, and also they will influence by the weather and by the the transmission condition. So I think to massive deployment, for the millimeter wave, is not for now. I think quite a little bit earlier, especially in Europe. Yeah.
Okay.
So we understand they have some very good case in the United States, like Verizon, but I think for the whole industry, we would like to to make a millimeter very popular is probably I think still need to wait maybe 1 or 2 years. So from the chips from the modular chipset perspective, and also the modular maker, I think they already support. From the device perspective, we also can be have I think from the point of from the proof of concept perspective. So I think we have this is a no technical barrier to realize the CPE. But the problem now, I think, is the volume and also the price. Is that okay? It's because a millimeter wave is, frankly speaking, is quite high. Cost. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And we are almost, near to the end. So just to be fair, Olivier, last question, but sorry, you will have to be quick. there was also a question about how your solution compares to field measurements. I mean, because you are not really using, a field measurement or driving test or this kind of things, you rely on OSS information. So how big the difference is in terms of accuracy?
Thanks, Julien. Thanks. Yes, this is very important because we were challenged on that, by the way, and we had to do drive test measurements to make sure that whatever information about the speed, the connection speed we were computing from the OSS were matching with the field test. And we did 200 measurements around the capital city in Asia. And during 1 hour, each measurement was 1 hour, 20 mobiles. And the results were that the standard deviation between drive test and peerless results were only 13%. And I just translated. So when we say you're going to get 30 megabits per second, that means that you will get anything between 28 to 32 megabits per second. So quite accurate.
Okay, very good. Well, sorry, guys, I will have to say thank you to all of you, and many thanks again for participating. I will hand over to John for the closing remarks. John?
All right. Thank you, Julian, and thank you, the members, for this interesting panel. So now we're coming to the end of this fifth plenary session, and I think really good sharing of information and insights. And we from the forum continue to work on delivering on our objectives. We really see that the need for fast, reliable, and affordable broadband has never been greater. We see that closing the digital divide is really acute now, driven by the large and fast pace of digitalization. We see that multiple technologies are needed to close the digital divide, and fixed wireless is really needed to be part of that mix. And fixed wireless is a complement to fiber. I hope you have seen the whole insights and the whole innovations around the 3GPP ecosystem, bringing this global volume and really a multiple and open innovation ecosystem. So really, we see fixed wireless as a great opportunity for operators as they invest on 5G. And with large-scale fixed wireless access deployments, they really are able to monetize those investments. And also, with this additional use case, they can bring 5G and 5G mid-band outside larger cities and broaden those deployments for suburban and rural areas, not only benefiting households with connectivity, but also many other use cases. So again, from the forum, we really thank you for all of you for attending and participating, and welcome more members that are interested to join. And we hope to have you in more of the coming forum events. So with that, I pass for Richard for closing.
Great, thanks very much, John, and thank you again to all our speakers and to everyone who attended us today. After the event, you will receive a link to the webinar recording. If you haven't already, you can download the presentations direct from the webinar room by moving your mouse over the screen. You should see a little download icon. There is a wide range of fixed wireless access related data on the GSA website that you can see here, including the FWA directory, the tool, market reports, catalogs, and surveys. For the latest updates on all GSA research activities and upcoming events, please do follow the GSA on our social channels. You'll find the Global Mobile Supply Association on Twitter, LinkedIn, and on YouTube. And if you visit gsacom.com, you'll be able to subscribe to our weekly research digest email. On behalf of the GSA team, all that remains to say is thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon at a future GSA event. Many thanks.